The final section of the Jeppesen manual is entitled VFR. It is intended for VFR pilots and is written in English, German and French. It contains visual approach and landing charts, area charts and text pages, which give general and detailed information relating to the airfield and surrounding airspace. We shall start by looking at the general section, starting on page 11. Much of the information contained in the general section is similar to the information contained in other sections of the Jeppesen manual and will be familiar to you. In this scene, we shall concentrate on those parts that need to be stressed. Pages 11 and 12 are the contents pages and need no further explanation. Units of measurement are shown on pages 15 and 17. Altitudes and elevations are shown in feet. Short distances, such as runway lengths, are shown in meters, and long distances in nautical miles. Lastly, bearings and tracks reported in the manual are magnetic. Halfway down page 17 is the general information about the aerodrome directory section. Aerodromes in this section of the manual are listed alphabetically, and the information regarding the aerodrome is given in text form. Here is the example aerodrome directory listing for the United Kingdom, on page 77 and 78 in the Student Jeppesen Training Manual. Notice that only aerodromes listed from Aberdeen to Benson are listed, as this is only a sample of airfields in the training version of the Jeppesen Flight Manual. The information shown here about each airfield will be explained later in this lesson. An important note given near the bottom of page 17 states that with the exception of helicopters, jet aircraft are more than 5.7 tons maximum permissible weight are not authorized to use the VFR approach and departure procedures. Also, under the same heading, but on the following page, it states that when approaching an airfield with the intention of landing, radio contact must be established no later than 5 minutes before reaching the first compulsory reporting point for the approach, or no later than 5 minutes before entering the aerodrome traffic circuit. The air-ground communications paragraph on page 19 states that at aerodromes without established air traffic control units, only an information service will be provided, usually in the native language. Control and clearances will not be given. Auto-info frequencies are also explained on this page. At airfields equipped with this facility, it is incumbent on pilots using the airfield to state clearly their position and manoeuvre for the benefit of other users. When you are satisfied with the information shown here, turn to page 113. The aerodrome directory, legend and explanation helps users understand more about the information contained in the aerodrome direction section, section 7. On screen is an example of the data in the aerodrome directory for Aberdeen. You can see a lot of the information is abbreviated and coded. To better understand this data, the aerodrome directory legend is used. There is some very valuable data contained in this section, and it is well worth a quick read-through just to familiarise yourself with what is available here. After the aerodrome directory, legend and explanation, comes the chart glossary. The glossary briefly explains the different types of charts, the contents of charts, and the symbols used. The first part of the chart glossary, page 2.1, concerns chart index numbers. All the charts in this manual are dated after July 1986, and so the chart numbering is as shown on the bottom half of the page. This brings the numbering of these charts in line with the Jeppesen IFR system, which you have already seen earlier on this course. Turning to page 2.5, many countries use the 25 kHz channel spacing in the VHF frequencies. However, only 2 decimal places are shown on these charts, as demonstrated in the radio frequencies paragraph. For example, the frequency 118.275 MHz is shown as 118.27. Moving on from radio frequencies, airspace structure and airspace restrictions, whose lower limit is above 3,000 feet from the surface, are not shown on VFR charts, simply because most VFR flights arriving at aerodromes will be operating at a lower level. The layout of the various charts is shown on the chart glossary, pages 2.7 to 2.14. The layout of the chart and their explanations should not present any problem, as they are very similar to the IFR charts you have studied earlier on in the course. Nonetheless, the information is in the manual for you to read through, should you be unfamiliar with general aerodrome chart layout. The only major difference is on the landing charts shown here on page 2.11. Here, the types of aircraft permitted at the aerodrome and the service facilities available are shown pictorially. Topographical information on the VFR aerodrome chart is depicted on page 2.15. This information includes highways, motorways, roads and railroads, town and settlement outlines, borders, levees, dams, cliffs, and so on, spot elevations and highest elevation points, and lakes, rivers, and swamps. Aeronautical information is shown on pages 2.16 to 2.23. And some of these symbols do differ from those on the IFR charts. The airfield symbols are slightly different, and there are others which are new to you, namely a special airport for ultralight aircraft, an airfield licensed for restricted use, and a special heliport for air ambulance only. The 3 airport symbols on page 2.17 are different from those you have seen before, as is the symbol for takeoff and landing strips without a specified width. The jet aircraft reporting point is also new. All of the symbols on page 2.18 should be studied carefully, so you become very familiar with them. Those shown on page 2.19 should be familiar, with the exception of the symbols for the VOR, co-located VOR DME and the VORTAC. Unlike the symbols used on the IFR charts, the magnetic north arrow has been removed and is replaced by a compass rose. If we now go to pages 2.22 and 2.23, we find a complete set of unfamiliar symbols which are applicable only to VFR charts. Again, try to become familiar with these. The section dealing with the aeronautical information is followed by one showing the symbols used on landing charts. None of these will be familiar to you, so you are advised to spend some time learning them. Ignore the symbols on page 2.29, as they do not apply to the charts contained in this manual. As you will have gathered, there is a great deal of information contained in the sections of the manual we have covered so far. Memorize as much of it as you can, but also note where the information can be found should you need to refer to it. Pages 6.1 to 6.18 contain an exhaustive list of all the abbreviations used in the text and on the charts. Although many of them will be familiar to you, there is no need to try and memorize them all. Treat this as a good reference section. We can now turn to section 7, which contains the aerodrome directory. Each country has its own directory, and the aerodromes within that country directory are listed alphabetically. In the student's version of the Jeppesen manual, the United Kingdom directory should be found immediately after the abbreviations section. You will recall that the explanation of the directory is on pages 113 and 114, but since much of it is self-evident, we will look at the first entry, which is Aberdeen. The main location name is Aberdeen, shown in bold capitals, followed by dice in brackets, which is the name of the airport. It is an airport of entry, meaning that it can be used as the first port of entry into the United Kingdom from overseas. The airfield elevation is 215 feet. The ICAO designator is Echo Golf Papa Delta. The IATA designator is Alpha Bravo Zulu, followed by the geographical coordinates of the airfield datum. The following two lines give the telephone and fax numbers of the airport operator and air traffic control. This is followed by the information concerning each runway, including runway length, type of surface, runway bearing strength and lighting. The airfield opening hours are Monday to Saturday, 06:20 to 21:50 local time, Sunday 06:45 to 21:50 local time, and customs are open from 06:30 to 22:30 local time. The telephone numbers for the general aviation and business aircraft are shown next. Finally, are listed the times of availability of Jet A1 and F3 fuel. Oxygen is available on request, and the fire cover is standard 7. This is the standard layout for all entries in the directory, although each one may not contain all the information we have seen. Compare this with orderly end in the right-hand column. After the aerodrome directory are the VFR area, approach, departure and airfield charts, which again are filed in alphabetical order in each country section. The Aberdeen chart 10.1V is a general area chart, with a 1 to 500,000 scale. The validity date of this chart is the 24th of August 2001 and is shown at the top of the chart, along with the frequencies for the two Scottish information services north or south of the Alpha Delta November VOR DME beacon. Looking further down the chart are the entry and exit lanes for the Peterhead, Stonehaven and Inverurie VFR routes. The entry lanes to these routes are marked by the solid black lines, and the exit lanes by the dashed lines. Each one has a maximum height of 2,000 feet. Other points to note on this chart are: the highest ground is 2,105 feet, as shown in the box, and the Aberdeen QNH is used below flight level 85, as shown in the bottom right-hand corner along with the ATSU frequencies. The reverse of the chart is a text version, giving a description of the entry and exit points, their conditions for use, and the visual reference points. The next chart in the series is 19.1, which is the visual approach and departure chart in a larger scale. In this case, 1 in a quarter million. The head of the chart is of the same style as the IFR charts, showing the airport name, elevation, geographical coordinates, and relevant frequencies. The main body of the chart is the same as the area chart, except in greater detail. For example, in this chart, the entry and exit routes are a little clearer and offer more detail. Chart 19.2, which is on the reverse, is the landing chart, which shows the airfield in much greater detail. At the top of the chart is a depiction of the aircraft types that are permitted to use the aerodrome. In this case, light aircraft, helicopters, and motor gliders. Beneath that are shown the frequencies for ATIS, ground, and Scottish information. Below the main body of the chart are shown the facilities available at the airfield, the type of lighting systems, and details of each of the runways. The procedures to be adopted for entry, ground movement, and departure are explained in text form in 19.3. As you have seen, there is a good deal of information contained in this section. Much of it will be familiar, but for that which is new, try to memorize as much as possible, but ensure you know where to find the information if required.